David walked into the psychology building that Tuesday morning, feeling nervous about the brain study he had signed up for. He needed the extra money from participating in research, and this seemed easy enough, just lie in a machine while they scanned his brain. What could go wrong? The hallways smelled like coffee and old books. Students hurried past him with backpacks and laptops, rushing to their morning classes. David checked his phone for the room number again, room 204. He found it at the end of the hall. When he knocked and entered, his breath caught in his throat. Behind the desk sat the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in real life. She had long dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, and warm brown eyes that seemed to see right through him. Her white lab coat couldn't hide her graceful movements as she stood up to greet him. "You must be David," she said with a smile that made his heart skip. "I'm Dr. Rodriguez. Thank you for volunteering for our study today." David tried to speak, but only managed a squeaky hi before clearing his throat. Hello. Yes, I'm David, ready to get my brain scanned, I guess." Dr. Rodriguez laughed. "A sound like wind chimes. Don't worry, it's completely safe. We're just looking at brain activity during rest periods, nothing complicated." As she explained the procedure, David found himself staring at her lips, wondering what it would feel like to kiss them. Then he imagined running his fingers through her hair. His thoughts wandered to holding her hand, maybe taking her out for dinner, seeing her smile at him across a candlelit table. "David, are you listening?" Dr. Rodriguez asked, tilting her head. "Sorry, yes, I'm listening," he said quickly, feeling his face turn red. "Just thinking about the scan." She studied his face for a moment, then smiled again. "All right, let's get started. The MRI machine is in the next room." The machine looked like a giant white donut. David had to lie down on a narrow bed that would slide him inside. Dr. Rodriguez helped him put on headphones and handed him a small device to squeeze. If he felt uncomfortable, "I'll be in the control room watching the monitors," she said, pointing to a window where he could see computers and screens. "The scan will take about 30 minutes. Just try to relax and let your mind wander." As the machine started making loud thumping sounds, David tried to think about normal things. His classes, his part-time job at the bookstore, what he wanted for lunch. But his mind kept drifting back to Dr. Rodriguez. He imagined what her hand would feel like in his. He pictured her laughing at his jokes over coffee. He wondered if she was single, if she ever dated students, if she might possibly be interested in someone like him. Through the window, he could see her sitting at the computer, watching colorful images of his brain on the screen. She was so focused, so professional. He found himself thinking about how attractive she looked when she was concentrating, how her eyes narrowed slightly when she was thinking hard. Suddenly, Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her screen and stared directly at him through the window. Her eyes were wide with surprise, and there was definitely a blush on her cheeks. She quickly looked back at her computer, then at him again, then back at the screen. David's heart started pounding. Had he done something wrong? Was his brain activity weird? Maybe he should have told them he had a headache this morning. The rest of the scan felt like it took forever. David tried to think about anything other than Dr. Rodriguez, but that just made him think about her more. Math problems, his grocery list, old movies. Nothing worked. Every few minutes, he would glance toward the window and catch her looking at him with the strangest expression. When the machine finally stopped, David felt relieved and confused at the same time. Dr. Rodriguez came back into the room to help him sit up, but she seemed different now. Less confident, more nervous. "How do you feel?" she asked, not quite meeting his eyes. "Fine. I think. Normal." "Did everything go okay with the scan?" She hesitated. "The data looks interesting. Very interesting, actually." David sat up slowly, still feeling a bit dizzy from lying down for so long. "Interesting how?" Dr. Rodriguez bit her lip, like she was trying to decide whether to say something. "David, this might sound strange, but do you have a few minutes to talk? Not about the study, just to talk." "Sure," he said, though he had no idea what she wanted to discuss. She led him to a small office down the hall. It had two chairs, a desk covered in papers. in a small window overlooking the campus courtyard. She closed the door behind them and sat down. Across from him. "What I'm about to tell you is going to sound crazy," she began, fidgeting with her pen. "But I need you to listen with an open mind." David nodded, completely confused but curious. "During your scan, I experienced something that's happened to me before, but never this clearly." She took a deep breath. "I could sense your thoughts, not all of them, but the strong ones, the emotional ones." David felt like the room was spinning. "What do you mean, sense my thoughts?" "I mean, I could feel what you were thinking about and feeling." She looked directly at him now. "You were thinking about me, weren't you?" David's face turned bright red. He wanted to disappear into the floor. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I tried to think about other things, but..." "David, stop," she said gently. "You don't need to apologize. What you were thinking, it was sweet, kind. It wasn't inappropriate or disrespectful. It was actually quite romantic." He stared at her, not sure if he was dreaming. "Are you saying you can read minds?" "Not exactly. It's more like strong emotions create a kind of signal that I can sometimes pick up. It's been happening to me since I was a child, but I've never told anyone because who would believe me?" David's mind raced. "So you knew I was thinking about dating you? About holding your hand?" She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "I knew you were thinking about taking me somewhere nice for dinner. I knew you were wondering if I was single. And I knew you were imagining what it would feel like to make me laugh." "This is impossible," David said, but even as he said it, he realized it explained her strange reactions during the scan. "I know it sounds impossible. But David, here's the thing that surprised me most." She leaned forward slightly. "I liked it. I've never experienced someone's thoughts so clearly before, and yours were. They were beautiful. Genuine. No games, no pretense, just honest feeling." David didn't know what to say. His whole world had just shifted. "I'm probably breaking about 50 professional rules by telling you this, Dr. Rodriguez continued, but I wanted you to know that what you were feeling wasn't one-sided. I've been thinking about you since you first walked into my office." "Really?" David asked, hardly believing what he was hearing. "Really? So here's my question for you." She smiled that wine-chime smile again. "Would you like to get that dinner you were thinking about? Because I would love to go." David felt like he was floating. "Yes, definitely yes." "Good," she said, standing up. "But first, I think we need to talk more about what happened today. This thing I can do, it's not something I fully understand yet. And if we're going to spend time together, you should know what you're getting into." As they walked out of the building together, David realized his life had just taken the most unexpected turn possible. He had signed up for a simple brain scan and somehow ended up with a date with the most amazing woman he had ever met. A woman who could apparently read his thoughts and liked what she found there. He had a feeling this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. 3 days had passed since the brain scan, and David couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Rodriguez. Not just because she was beautiful, but because of what she had told him. Could she really read his thoughts? It seemed impossible, but the way she had known exactly what he was thinking during the scan made it hard to doubt. He was sitting in the campus coffee shop, staring at his psychology textbook but not really reading it when she walked in. She spotted him immediately and came over to his table. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, holding a cup of tea. "Please," David said, closing his book. "I was hoping I'd see you again." "I've been thinking about our conversation," she said, settling into the chair across from him, "about what happened during the scan. I have an idea, but I need your help." David leaned forward. "What kind of idea?" "I want to study this properly. Scientifically. I've had this ability my whole life, but I've never tried to understand it. With your help, maybe we can figure out how it works." "You want to experiment on me?" David asked, not sure if he should be excited or nervous. "With you, not on you," she corrected with a smile. "We'd be partners in this research. I need someone I trust, someone whose thoughts I can actually pick up clearly." David thought about it. The idea of spending more time with Dr. Rodriguez was appealing. But he was also curious about her ability. What will we do exactly? Simple tests at first. I'll try to guess what you're thinking about under different conditions. We'll see. What makes the connection stronger or weaker? Maybe we can learn to control it better. And this would be just between us, for now, yes? I'm not ready to tell the whole world about this. Too many people would either think I'm crazy or try to use me somehow. David nodded. When do we start? They met the next afternoon in Dr. Rodriguez's small office. She had cleared off her desk and set up the chairs facing each other. Let's start. Simple, she said, pulling out a notebook. I want you to think about a color, any color. Focus on it really hard. David closed his eyes and pictured the color blue. Not just any blue, but the exact shade of Dr. Rodriguez's sweater from yesterday. He concentrated on it, imagining blue skies and blue oceans. Blue, she said after a moment. A specific blue. Like the sweater I wore yesterday. David opened his eyes in amazement. That's exactly right. How did you know? I could see it in my mind. Not like a picture, more like a feeling of blueness. And there was something warm about it, like it meant something special to you. They tried several more colors, and she got most of them right when David thought about red. She said she felt energy and passion when he thought about green. She said it felt peaceful and natural. This is incredible, David said. Do you always get emotions along with the thoughts? Usually, yes. Thoughts without emotion are harder for me to pick up. The stronger you feel about something, the clearer it comes through. Next, they tried numbers. David would think of a number between 1 and 10, and Dr. Rodriguez would try to guess it. She got about half of them right, which was much better than random chance. Numbers are harder, she explained. They don't have much emotional content, unless, she paused. Try thinking of a number that means something to you, like your birthday or your address. David thought of the number 17, which was his age when he first realized he wanted to study psychology. Dr. Rodriguez got it right immediately. There was a story behind that number, she said. Something about making an important decision when you were younger. You're right, David said. I was 17 when I decided what I wanted to study in college. As the days went by, their experiments became more interesting. Dr. Rodriguez discovered that she could pick up his thoughts more clearly when they were sitting closer together. She also found that if David was tired or stressed, the connection was weaker. It's like tuning a radio, she explained one afternoon. Sometimes the signal is clear. Sometimes it's full of static. David learned to focus his thoughts more deliberately. At first, his mind would wander all over the place, making it hard for her to get a clear reading. But with practice, he could direct his thoughts towards specific topics. Think about your favorite memory, she said during one session. David thought about a summer camping trip he had taken with his family when he was 12. He remembered the smell of the campfire, the sound of his sister laughing, the way the stars looked so bright away from the city lights. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. That was beautiful. I could feel how happy and peaceful that memory makes you. There was a campfire, and someone you love was laughing. It felt like home. My sister. David said, she was laughing because I tried to cook marshmallows and burn them all. I could sense the love you have for your family. It's really strong. As they continued their experiments, David started to understand something important. Dr. Rodriguez wasn't just reading his thoughts randomly. She was experiencing his emotions, his memories, his deepest feelings. It was incredibly intimate, more personal than anything he had ever shared with another person. Doesn't it feel strange? He asked her one day. Knowing someone else's thoughts so completely, sometimes, she admitted. But with you, it feels safe. Your thoughts are kind, even when you're thinking about me. It's always respectful, always caring. David felt his face get warm. You can tell when I'm thinking about you. David, you think about me a lot, she said with a gentle laugh. And I don't mind. In fact, I think about you too. Really, really. The difference is, you can't read my thoughts. So I have to tell you with words. She reached across the table and took his hand. I enjoy spending time with you. I look forward to our sessions. And I'm starting to care about you more than I probably should." David felt like his heart might burst with happiness. "I care about you too, more than I've ever cared about anyone." "I know," she said softly. "I can feel it." As their experiments continued, something unexpected began to happen. David found that he could sometimes sense when Dr. Rodriguez was about to speak, or when she was feeling happy or sad. It wasn't mind reading like her ability, but it was a deeper connection than he had ever experienced with another person. "I think we're affecting each other," she said one evening as they were packing up their notes. "The more time we spend connecting like this, the more in tune we become." "Is that good or bad?" David asked. "I think it's wonderful," she said, smiling. "I've never felt so understood by another person. You're not just helping me study my ability, David, you're helping me understand what it means to truly connect with someone." David walked her to her car that night, feeling like he was floating on air. What had started as a simple experiment was becoming something much more meaningful. He was falling in love with Dr. Rodriguez, and somehow, through her unique gift, she was falling in love with him to Dot as he watched her drive away. David realized that their research had taught them something neither of them expected. Sometimes the most important discoveries happen not in laboratories or textbooks, but in the quiet moments when two people truly see each other for who they really are. 2 weeks had passed since David and Dr. Rodriguez started their experiments, and something amazing was happening. What began as scientific research had become something much deeper. They were spending almost every afternoon together, and their connection was growing stronger each day. "Try something different today," Dr. Rodriguez said as they sat in her office. "Instead of just thinking about random things, I want you to share a memory with me, something important to you." David settled back in his chair and closed his eyes. He thought about his 10th birthday, when his grandmother had given him his first microscope. He remembered unwrapping the small wooden box, seeing the shiny metal instrument inside, and feeling like he had been given a window into a secret world. "Your grandmother," Dr. Rodriguez said softly, her eyes still closed. "She was very special. To you, I can feel how much she loved you and how much you loved her. There was a gift, something that made you feel like a real scientist." David opened his eyes, amazed as always by her accuracy. "She gave me a microscope. It was the first time I felt like maybe I could be smart enough to study science. She believed in you completely," Dr. Rodriguez said. "I could feel her pride, her hope for your future. And David, she was right to believe in you." These sessions had become the highlight of David's week. Through her ability, Dr. Rodriguez was getting to know him in ways that usually took years of friendship. She had experienced his childhood fears, his dreams for the future, and his deepest insecurities. Somehow, instead of being frightened or overwhelmed, she seemed to understand him better than anyone ever had. "Can I try something?" David asked one afternoon. "I want to see if I can send you a specific thought on purpose." "That's not exactly how it works," she explained. "I can receive your thoughts, but you can't really control what I pick up. It's more like I'm tuning into your emotional broadcast. But what if I focus really hard on one specific thing, something I really want you to know?" Dr. Rodriguez smiled. "We can try." David concentrated with all his strength on a single thought. He wanted her to know how grateful he was for her trust, how much their time together meant to him, and how beautiful she was not just on the outside, but in her kindness and intelligence. Tears formed in Dr. Rodriguez's eyes. "David, that was the most beautiful thing anyone has ever thought about me. You could feel all of that, every word, every emotion, the way you see me. It's like I'm seeing myself through new eyes." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I've never felt so appreciated, so valued." As the days went on, David noticed that Dr. Rodriguez was becoming more comfortable sharing her own thoughts and feelings with him in return. She told him about her childhood, how her strange ability had made her feel isolated and different from other kids. "I was 7 when I first realized I could sense what other people were thinking," she said one evening as they walked across campus. "I told my mom that Mrs. Peterson, our neighbor, was sad because she missed her husband who had died. My mom Thought I was just being imaginative until Mrs. Peterson broke down crying and told us she had been thinking about her husband all day. That must have been scary for a little kid, David said. It was. I didn't understand why I could hear things that other people couldn't. For years, I thought everyone could do it, and they were just pretending not to. It wasn't until I was in high school that I realized I was different. David felt a wave of sadness for the lonely child she had been. Is that why you went into psychology? To understand your ability, partly, but also because I wanted to help people. When you can feel someone's emotions so directly, you understand how much everyone is struggling with something. I thought if I could learn about the human mind, maybe I could use my gift to help people instead of just being weird. Their walks became a regular thing. David found that he could talk to Dr. Rodriguez about anything, and she never judged him. She had seen his thoughts, his fears, his embarrassing memories, and somehow she still wanted to spend time with him. I have a confession, she said one evening as they sat on a bench overlooking the campus pond. I've been thinking about you even when we're not doing experiments. David's heart skipped. What kind of thoughts? Wondering what you're doing, if you're happy. If you're thinking about me too. Normal thoughts that people have when they care about someone. I think about you all the time, David admitted. Sometimes I wish I could share my thoughts with you the way you can read mine. You do share them with me, she said softly, every time we're together. I can feel how you feel about me. It's like having a direct line to your heart. David took her hand. And how do I feel about you? Like I'm the most important person in your world. Like you can't imagine being without me. Like you, she paused, looking into his eyes. Like you love me. I do love you, David said, saying the words out loud for the first time. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. I love you too, she whispered. When they kissed, David felt like the whole world had shifted. This wasn't just a normal relationship. Through her gift, Dr. Rodriguez knew him completely. And she loved him anyway. She loved him not despite his flaws and fears, but because she understood them. In the following days, their connection deepened even further. Dr. Rodriguez began to notice that she could sense David's emotions even when they were apart. If he was stressed about an exam, she would feel anxious without knowing why. If he was happy about something, she would find herself smiling for no apparent reason. It's like we're becoming synchronized, she explained as they analyzed their notes. The more time we spend connected like this, the more our emotional states align. David discovered that he was becoming more sensitive to her moods as well. He could tell when she was tired, when she was excited about her research, when she was worried about something. It wasn't telepathy like her ability, but it was a deeper level of understanding than he had ever experienced. Is this normal? He asked one afternoon. This level of connection? I don't know, she admitted. I've never had a relationship like this before. But David, I don't want it to be normal. I want it to be ours. They began to communicate in ways that went beyond words. A look, a touch, a shared silence could convey more than entire conversations. When they were together, they felt complete. When they were apart, they felt like they were missing a part of themselves. I used to think my ability was a burden, Dr. Rodriguez told him one evening, something that made me different and alone. But with you, it's become a gift. It's allowed us to know each other in a way that most people never experience. David squeezed her hand. You're not alone anymore. You'll never be alone again. As they walked home under the stars, David realized that their experiment had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. They hadn't just studied her telepathic ability. They had discovered something far more valuable, a love based on complete understanding and acceptance. They had found each other in the most extraordinary way possible, and nothing would ever be the same. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning when Dr. Rodriguez woke up with a splitting headache. She had been having strange dreams all night, filled with voices and thoughts that weren't her own. As she got ready for work, she kept hearing fragments of conversations, feelings that didn't belong to her. By the time she reached the university, she was exhausted and confused. Walking through the hallways felt like being in a crowded restaurant, where everyone was talking at once, except the conversations. were happening inside her head. "Good morning, Dr. Rodriguez," said Professor Chen from the chemistry department as he passed her in the hallway. Suddenly, she could hear his thoughts as clearly as if he had spoken them aloud. He was worried about his daughter's grades, frustrated with his research funding, and wondering if he should ask his wife to go to dinner tonight. Dr. Rodriguez stopped walking, her hand pressed against the wall for support. This had never happened before. She had only been able to read David's thoughts, and only when they were close together and he was thinking about something emotional. "Are you okay?" Professor Chen asked, noticing her pale face. "I'm fine," she managed to say, though she was anything but fine, just tired. As the day went on, it got worse. In the faculty meeting, she could sense what everyone was thinking. Dr. Williams was bored and thinking about his weekend plans. Dr. Johnson was angry about the new parking policy. Dr. Adams was worried about her sick mother. The thoughts came in waves, overwhelming her with information she didn't want to know. She excused herself early and went to find David. She found him in the library, studying for his upcoming exam. The moment she saw him, she felt some relief. His thoughts were familiar, comforting, like coming home after a long day. "Something's wrong," she whispered, sitting down beside him. "I can hear everyone's thoughts now, not just yours." David looked up from his books, immediately concerned. "What do you mean, everyone?" "Every person I've been near today. Their thoughts, their feelings, their worries. It's like someone turned up the volume on the whole world and I can't turn it down." David could see how distressed she was. Her hands were shaking, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. "When did this start?" "This morning. I woke up and it was like my ability had gotten stronger overnight. But David, I don't want it to be stronger. I liked it the way it was, just between us." They went back to her office, hoping that being in a quiet, familiar space would help. But even there, she could sense the thoughts of people walking past in the hallway, students studying in nearby rooms, professors working in their offices. "I can't concentrate," she said, holding her head in her hands. "There's too much noise, too many voices." David didn't know how to help her, but he tried everything he could think of. He played soft music, closed the blinds, even tried to create a barrier of positive thoughts around her. Nothing worked. Over the next few days, Dr. Rodriguez's condition got worse. She could barely leave her apartment without being overwhelmed by the thoughts and emotions of everyone around her. She called in sick to work, something she had never done before. David visited her every day, bringing her food and trying to keep her company. But even his presence, which used to bring her comfort, was now complicated. She could feel his worry, his fear, his desperate desire to help her, and it added to the overwhelming noise in her head. "I'm scared," she admitted one evening as they sat on her couch. "What if this never goes away? What if I can never have a normal life again? We'll figure it out," David said, though he wasn't sure how. "Maybe we can find a way to control it, like we did with our experiments." But their attempts to control her new, stronger ability weren't working. The techniques that had helped her focus on his thoughts specifically were useless against the constant stream of mental noise from everyone around her. Things got even more complicated when Dr. Thompson, the head of the psychology department, started asking questions about their research. He had noticed that Dr. Rodriguez had been spending a lot of time with David, and he was curious about what they were working on. "I've heard you've been doing some interesting experiments," Dr. Thompson said when he called her into his office. "Something about consciousness and brain activity." Dr. Rodriguez tried to stay calm, but she could sense his thoughts. He wasn't just curious, he was suspicious. He thought she might be hiding something important, something that could bring recognition to the department. "It's just preliminary research," she said carefully, "nothing ready for publication yet." But Dr. Thompson's thoughts told a different story. He was planning to investigate her work further. He was thinking about how unusual abilities could be studied, maybe even used for practical applications. When she told David about the meeting, he was worried too. "What if he finds out about your ability? What if he tries to use it somehow?" "I don't know," she said, But David, I can hear his thoughts now. He's not just interested in the science. He's thinking about government contracts, about how telepathy could be used for security purposes. The stress of hiding her condition, combined with the constant mental noise, was taking its toll on Dr. Rodriguez. She was losing weight, barely sleeping, and becoming more isolated each day. David felt helpless watching the woman he loved struggle with something he couldn't understand or fix. He tried to research telepathy, looking for any information about people who had experienced similar problems. But there wasn't much scientific literature on the subject. Maybe we should tell someone, he suggested one afternoon. Another researcher, someone who might be able to help. Who would believe us? Dr. Rodriguez asked. And even if they did, what then? I become a test subject for the rest of my life. Their relationship, which had been so perfect and understanding, was now strained by the variability that had brought them together. Dr. Rodriguez was too overwhelmed to connect with David the way she used to, and he felt like he was losing her to the voices in her head. I miss you, he said one evening, even though she was sitting right beside him. I miss us too, she replied sadly. But I don't know how to get back to the way things were. One night, Dr. Rodriguez had a particularly bad episode. She could hear the thoughts of everyone in her apartment building, layer upon layer of human consciousness pressing against her mind. She called David, crying and barely able to speak. I can't take it anymore, she sobbed into the phone. It's too much. I feel like I'm losing myself. David rushed over to her apartment, finding her curled up on the floor, her hands pressed against her ears as if she could block out the mental noise. We have to do something, he said, kneeling beside her. This can't go on. As he held her, both of them crying, they realized that their perfect connection had become a prison. The gift that had brought them together was now threatening to tear them apart. They had to find a solution, and they had to find it soon. Because if they didn't, Dr. Rodriguez might lose herself completely in the endless sea of other people's thoughts. And David might lose the only person he had ever truly loved. David spent 3 sleepless nights researching everything he could find about telepathy, consciousness, and mental shielding. Most of what he found was either too scientific or too mystical to be helpful. But then he discovered something interesting. In an old psychology journal, he rushed to Dr. Rodriguez's apartment early in the morning, finding her sitting by the window, looking exhausted but calmer than she had been in days. I think I found something, he said, spreading papers across her coffee table. There's a researcher in Boston who studied people with unusual sensory abilities. She developed techniques to help them filter out unwanted information. Dr. Rodriguez looked at the papers with tired eyes. David, this is about people who could hear sounds others couldn't, or see colors differently. It's not the same as reading thoughts, but the principle is the same, David insisted. It's about learning to control what information your brain processes. She calls it selective attention training. They spent the morning going through the research together. The techniques were based on meditation and focused concentration, similar to what they had already been doing but more structured and systematic. We can adapt these methods for your specific situation, David explained. Instead of trying to block out all thoughts, we can train your mind to focus only on the ones you choose to hear. Dr. Rodriguez was skeptical, but she was also desperate. They had to try something. They started that afternoon with simple exercises. Dr. Rodriguez would sit quietly and try to focus only on David's thoughts, filtering out everything else. At first, it was impossible. The other voices were too loud, too overwhelming. I can't do it, she said after their first attempt. It's like trying to have a conversation at a rock concert. Then let's start smaller, David suggested. Don't try to block everything out. Just try to turn down the volume a little bit. They worked on it for hours each day. Slowly, Dr. Rodriguez began to notice small improvements. She could sometimes reduce the mental noise from a roar to a whisper, though she still couldn't make it stop completely. Meanwhile, Dr. Thompson was becoming more persistent about their research. He had started asking other faculty members about Dr. Rodriguez's work, and he was planning to formally request access to her data. We need to be careful, Dr. Rodriguez warned David. I can sense his thoughts when he's nearby, and he's more suspicious than ever. He thinks we're hiding something. Revolutionary. David had an idea. What if we give him something to find? Not the truth, but something that satisfies his curiosity? They spent a weekend creating fake research data about brain activity during meditation. It looked legitimate and interesting, but it had nothing to do with telepathy. When Dr. Thompson asked to see their work, they showed him the fake study. Fascinating, he said, reviewing their made-up results. This could be published in a good journal. Have you considered expanding the research? We're still in the early stages, Dr. Rodriguez replied, relieved that he seemed satisfied with what they had shown him, with Dr. Thompson's immediate curiosity satisfied. They could focus on the real problem. Dr. Rodriguez's training was progressing, but it was still exhausting work. Some days were better than others, and she was learning to recognize the patterns that made her abilities stronger or weaker. I think stress makes it worse, she realized one afternoon. When I'm anxious or tired, I can't filter the thoughts as well. David noticed something else, and when you're happy or relaxed, you have more control. Like when we're just sitting together, not trying to do anything special. They began to understand that her ability wasn't just about receiving thoughts, but about her emotional state when she received them. The more centered and calm she felt, the more she could choose what to focus on. This discovery led to a breakthrough. Instead of trying to block out unwanted thoughts, Dr. Rodriguez learned to create a kind of mental safe space where she could retreat. When the noise became too much in this space, she could hear only the thoughts she wanted to hear, or sometimes no thoughts at all. It's like having a quiet room inside my mind, she explained to David. I can go there when I need peace, and I can come out when I'm ready to connect with others. The technique wasn't perfect, and it took constant practice, but it gave Dr. Rodriguez her life back. She could return to work, go to crowded places, and most importantly, she could be with David without being overwhelmed by his worried thoughts about her. Their relationship, which had been strained by the crisis, began to heal. They could enjoy each other's company again, and Dr. Rodriguez could use her ability to connect with David in the special way they had developed, without being overwhelmed by everyone else's mental noise. I want to help other people, she told David one evening as they walked through the campus. There might be others out there struggling with abilities like mine, feeling alone and scared like I was. David smiled. How do you want to help them? I'm thinking about starting a support group, not officially through the university, just a private group where people with unusual experiences can talk and share coping strategies. Over the next few months, Dr. Rodriguez quietly reached out to people who had contacted the psychology department about strange experiences. She was amazed to discover that she wasn't alone. There were others who had telepathic experiences, people who could sense emotions unusually strongly, and individuals who had prophetic dreams. They started meeting once a week in Dr. Rodriguez's apartment. The group was small, only 6 people, but it became a lifeline for all of them. They shared their experiences, their fears, and their coping strategies. For the first time in my life, I don't feel like a freak, said one member, a young woman who could sense when people were lying. I feel like I have a family who understands. David helped with the group, providing emotional support and helping to research techniques that might help different types of abilities. He discovered that he had a gift for making people feel comfortable and accepted, regardless of how unusual their experiences were. Dr. Rodriguez's work with the support group also helped her understand her own ability better. She realized that her telepathy wasn't a burden or a gift, but simply part of who she was. Like any other trait, it could be developed and controlled with practice and understanding. I used to think I was broken, she told David one night as they sat on her couch. Now I realize I was just different, and different isn't bad, it's just different. David took her hand. You're not different to me, you're perfect. I'm perfect to you because you've seen all of me, she replied. My thoughts, my fears, my dreams. You've seen the real me, and you love me anyway. I love you because of who you are, not despite it. David said, Your ability, your kindness, your intelligence, your strength. It's all part of what makes you amazing. As the months passed, Dr. Rodriguez became more confident in managing her ability. She could choose when to use it and when to keep it quiet. She could help people in her support group without being overwhelmed by their problems. Most importantly, she could be in a relationship with David that was based on love and trust, not just on the extraordinary connection they shared. Their research continued, but now it was focused on helping others rather than just understanding her ability. They published papers about consciousness and empathy, careful to protect the privacy of their support group members while sharing techniques that could help people with similar experiences. Dr. Thompson never discovered their real research, and eventually he moved on to other projects. The fake study they had created was actually published in a minor journal, which amused them both. Who knew we were such good fiction writers? David joked as they read the published paper. Maybe we should write a book about our real experiences someday, Dr. Rodriguez suggested. Not as a scientific paper, but as a story that might help other people feel less alone. David smiled. I think that's a wonderful idea. We could call it The Girl Who Read My Thoughts and Love Them. I like that, she said, snuggling closer to him, because that's exactly what happened, isn't it? I read your thoughts, and I fell in love with what I found there. As they sat together, no longer needing words to communicate their feelings, they both knew that their story was far from over. They had found each other in the most extraordinary way, survived challenges that would have broken most couples, and created something beautiful together. They had learned that true love isn't about perfection or normalcy. It's about seeing someone completely, accepting them entirely, and choosing to build a life together despite the obstacles. In their case, the obstacle happened to be telepathy, but the love was entirely human.